Welcome to Fantasy or Reality, the GPP. Whatever road you took to get here doesn't matter. What matters is you're here. And my hope is that we all can help one another in this journey. Hey, how are you? I'm asking, how are you? You ever sit around and actually think about that question when someone asks you, or if you can answer it honestly? I kind of brought this up as a topic not too long ago in one of my meeting groups. And we were kind of going back and forth, asking each other how we were doing and honestly answering. I was just thinking recently, how often, all day, every day, are we saying this to people? And, I get it's a greeting. I get it, it's just basically saying hi. But how often can we actually say how we are? Do people really care? For a long time, I didn't feel like very many people actually cared how I felt. I know I've got family and friends and that do care, but I guess it was that thing beating in my mind, telling me I was never enough. And I don't feel that way anymore. Obviously, if you've listened to this podcast, I've turned my life around. Things are great. Of course, there are ups and downs. Life is good today. Before I get into the topic more, I just want to say, this was a great weekend. Memorial Day weekend. I had some family come visit on my wife's side, and we kind of went around and we showed her just some areas that we live in, some of the beautiful areas around here. And man, it was great, going through and seeing some waterfalls, and it was actually fun. I had seen a thing when I was driving at work one day where it looked like a waterfall just off the road. It was just driving down this remote road way up here, and I just said, we were in the area visiting another attraction or whatever, more of a touristy attraction, and I said, let's go check this waterfall out. I ended up pulling up and ended up finding that there was a trail that you could walk actually up to this stream / waterfall, and you could walk on the rocks, and man, it was awesome. Feeling the wind coming off the waterfall and just being there with family and the kids enjoying it. And it was just like a perfect time, perfect moment, perfect weekend. So, life is good today. How am I today? I'm great, man. I'm great. My wife and I did a couples therapy for the first time. Her and I have been going to therapy for basically a year at this point, and it's helped dramatically. I thank God for one-on-one therapy. I don't know where we would be at this point without it. Yeah, that's, I know I preach it a lot, but it's been the main thing that's really helped me figure myself out. It's helped my wife figure herself out. It's been so important to us. And we went to this session, and we sat and we talked, and we've had some ups and downs over the last few weeks, mostly ups, but there's a few things that we had to talk about, and our communication is so much different. That's one thing. There's a lot of things that have changed, but one thing I've really noticed over the last year is our ability to communicate has grown and developed so much. We actually listen. Not that we never listen, but we wait till the other one is done talking. We don't try to talk over or defend or get defensive. We try to understand where the other one is coming from, and empathize, and don't get angry at one another. And we're not perfect, but we're much better than we were a year ago. Sorry if I'm all nasally. I feel like my allergies are just killing me right now, but all good. But yeah, so it was great. We did the couples therapy together. Had a great weekend together as a family. But, I don't want to just. I want to emphasize that, I didn't just get to this point where I am today just as time passed. It's been over a year now. Um, and this is not where I was a year ago. I know I kind of talked about it in my last solo one about, the changes and everything and what I've done and whatnot. And I talk a lot about it at that. But, I was just in a meeting with a group that I meet with every Monday with my friend Todd that's in that meeting. And one of our newer members is having a bit of a tough time. So I grabbed my journal to kind of let him know like where I was at that point a year ago. So I thought it'd be kind of interesting to read back on an excerpt or two of my journal from when I first began recovery, just to see, where I was at that point and kind of compare it to where I am today. So I started journaling on the 9th day of my recovery on 5/11 last year. So I'm going to read an excerpt from this one and then an excerpt from, I think, day 44 or whatever. My wife is going to put gas in my car. Even though there's nothing left to hide, my initial thought was, shit, what is in there to expose my gambling? Old gift cards? Receipts? I had to remind myself that no longer applies and I'm moving forward from that disaster. I was having anxiety about my wife taking to put gas in my car because I thought there was, gift cards or receipts of crap I had bought from my gambling. And I realized, I don't have to worry about that. It sucks that this happened. This is what I was thinking at the point, but I still was feeling that feeling. And as I'm writing this, she had called me. So it says, she calls at this point and we discuss a $25 gift card from work and why it's in my center console. It was nothing bad, just a card from work, but because of my gambling, this is what I deserve. Everything is going to be picked apart and I understand why. I fought so long to not feel weak, like a failure. I never wanted this side of me to come out and into the light, but yet here it is. I feel so selfish saying I'm relieved, but I always wondered how I could live my life if I kept these secrets in our marriage. The guilt has been almost unbearable. I hate that this is where our lives have led, solely because of me. I know no matter what, I will fight to be the man my wife and my boys need and deserve. So that's how I felt on the 9th day in. The language I used was very full of self-hate still. I've let go of a lot of that negative self-talk and the hatred of myself. And a lot of that has been through the meetings and through the one-on-one therapy. But back then, this is how I felt. This is what I deserve. The guilt has been unbearable. I hate that this is where I am in our lives because of me. I had so much negative self-talk back then. I really hated who I was. I remember the first day it happened, I kept telling myself, this is what you deserve. This is what you deserve. And I know I don't deserve that. I made a lot of mistakes. But I deserve to be happy. I deserve to have a good life. We all do. We just gotta pick up from, day one and just keep marching forward. And if you trip and fall, it's okay. This is not a linear path. Some people are going to relapse. Some people are going to have a hard time. If you've listened to this, I had I stopped gambling at one point and I relapsed. I had drug addictions in the past and I relapsed many times. It's not easy, but once you make the decision, or once I made the decision to finally do this the right way, I wanted to change my life. I wanted to change how I felt about myself. That's when I was able to move forward. And the tough days were really hard at first. The roller coaster was crazy, up and down and up and down. Things have definitely leveled off. There's still a roller coaster, a little bit, but it's a lot smoother now. Anyways, so let me read a passage from day 44. I really hope this is only temporary. It feels like she doesn't care anymore. She gets angry anytime I tell her why I'm upset at something. I guess I get it, but it still sucks. Also, for a while tonight, I've been very nauseous. I went in the shower, and any other time in our relationship, she would have come in to check on me. And tonight she didn't. I really hope we can turn things around. This is killing me. I hate gambling and drug addiction. The shame I felt from both have caused me to make so many desperate, stupid decisions, and now here we are. I am so sad tonight. Now, that doesn't sound anything like you hear on this podcast. That is where I was in my first month or two. And for a while afterwards, it took a lot of time to really start getting rid of that negative self-talk. I mean, you can hear that is just full of self-hatred, negative self-talk, just thinking I'm the worst, hating myself for destroying, what I thought was destroying our marriage. And thankfully that wasn't the case, and thankfully our relationship is fantastic right now. But it took a lot of time and energy and focus and dedication to change that mindset. I had to first identify that was what was going on. And I really learned that from my one-on-one therapy. I know you're probably tired of hearing me talk about this. I guess I just talk about it a lot because it's changed my life. My life is so much different than it was just a year ago, just 6 months ago. So I just encourage you to seek one-on-one therapy, and if you can't, find a group that you feel comfortable talking to about your issues, your problems, and really get to the root cause of why. Because I realized that gambling, drug addiction was just the symptom of this negative self-talk, this just not being happy with who I was. And that's not the case anymore. I love my life today. I've always been happy with my wife and my children, but now I can finally love myself. And I want everyone to be there. I want everyone to feel that way. I don't want anyone to have to feel the way I felt a year ago and before that. And if that's how you feel, I get it. I was there. I've been there. I was there for a long time. But I promise, you don't have to live that way anymore. I mean, if I can get there, just about anyone can get there. I've had so many things to feel shame and self-hate about, and I really realized that that's not who I am. It was just some bad decisions I was making, and I don't ever have to make those again. It doesn't wipe it away. It doesn't make it so it didn't happen. But I've learned to forgive myself, which is going to be a topic I talk about in the next coming episodes. My friend Todd and I are going to get together and talk about that on a future episode. So look out for that. I'm looking forward to having him come back on. But anyways, there's another topic I wanted to talk about quickly. So I'm sure some of you found this podcast through the New York Times article from back in February. And my wife and I did another local article about a month after that one, and both were very good experiences. Both the authors talked about the story, the problem, but also talked about the recovery and that, things do get better. Sorry for the coughing again. Recently we did another story with another paper, and I guess I'm really not happy with how it came out. The more time goes on and the more I think about it, I didn't particularly like some of the things that were put in there. Not necessarily our story, because I'm fine sharing our story, but it felt more like it was just about the sensationalism. It was more about the, hey, look at how bad this guy's life got and how much he hurt his wife and this and that. And I'm glad that they're writing stories about it. So that's a positive, and I'm happy that my story, my wife and I story, can facilitate that, can push the narrative forward. This conversation that gambling addiction is real. There are consequences. But I don't do these things to say, like, look how bad things can get. I do them because I want there to be a message of hope that life can change. And there was a video that was tagged with it, and some of that is in there. And I definitely give them credit for that. I give them credit for writing the story. But yeah, I don't like some of the stuff that was put in the story. There were some details I gave that I personally did not feel that should have even been in the story. Most of our story was mostly about the negative things. A lot of the stuff that you can hear in my earlier episodes where I detail my addiction. And that's an important part. You have to talk about that. But to me, if you're not going to talk about the recovery, then what is the point? You want to bring attention to the fact that there's an addiction, but if you're not talking about the fact that there's hope, that there are places to reach out and get help, then to me, all you're doing is writing a story to show how bad things can get. And I really would, I was upset at first. I definitely was upset at first. But I told my wife and my therapist and everything that, from this, the lesson that I took was how I am going to approach these things going forward. Probably start to limit what I do, limit what I talk about, and really kind of dictate that if I am going to share my story, or if we are going to share our story, it's got to be recovery related. I'm not going to do them anymore if it's just going to be sensationalized. So, in this situation, I look for the positive. Whereas in the past, I would have stayed angry. I would have written a very nasty message. I would have gotten pissed. I would have gotten angry. But what does that do? Who does that help? It doesn't help me to be angry. It doesn't help me to stay upset. And I try to look at this situation like I look at any situation. What can I learn from that? What is the lesson I can take from this? That's also something our therapist was talking about when we were in there last week. Something bad in our life doesn't have to just be bad. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. So from this, I learned how I'm going to handle these things going forward. And that's okay. I live and I learn. And, the positive is there was another story written about gambling addiction, its effects. Hopefully someone came across it that got some help. That's why I do this podcast, so someone that comes across it like I came across other podcasts that really helped me, hopefully they can get the help they need. I'm always here. If you need help to reach out, feel free to reach out. And if you just need someone to talk to about your addiction, if you have no one else you can talk to about, you can feel comfortable talking to me. I won't tell anybody. I won't, broadcast anything on here. It's just you. If you just feel the need to reach out to someone, you can reach out to me. I've been through hell and back with this, and it's a never-ending journey. And I'm gonna keep plugging away, keep doing my podcast, keep doing my recovery while finding balance in life. And take the lessons. If you look at my journal, the first few entries were all negative. Were all very negative. But looking back on it, there's a roller coaster. Some good days, some bad days, and as time goes on, there's more good than bad. And I promise you, it does get better. Sometimes in the beginning, it feels like it never will. Feels like you've destroyed your life. I felt like I destroyed my life, destroyed my any hope of having a good and happy marriage. And I mean, honestly, I feel like our marriage and my life and my self-image is better than it's ever been in my life. Our marriage is better than it's been in 10 years. We're almost married 10 years. It's incredible. And I really have a wonderful wife who's stood by me through so much. And we're here together for one another. So I'm not going to make this crazy long tonight. I just wanted to put something out there, share my thoughts, share my feelings, and just show that this does work. This process works, whether you're addicted to gambling, any kind of narcotic, alcohol. It can change. Life does get better. I never would have expected after, close to 13 months that this is where my life would be. And looking back at where I've been and how my life has gone, and all the different addictions and everything that I've lived through, to have such a good and happy life. I mean, I couldn't be happier today. My wife and I were sitting on a porch last night and just talking about how lucky we are to have our home, and sometimes it's hard to believe that we have the home we have and are living the life we're living. And that's a lot of hard work, but it's worth it. It is worth it. And life does get better. Thank you for listening. Be good to yourselves and one another. Here's where to get help. You can call or text 1-800-522-4700. That's the National Council on Problem Gambling. Or you could call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537. This is where I found the link to my therapist through my local counselor. And then also, we cannot forget our affected others. My wife goes to Gam-Anon every week, and it's been a huge help to her. So anyone in your life who you feel like needs help or you've affected through your gambling, you can go to gamanon.org, GAM-ANON.org. The number is 718-352-1671.